What's up YouTube, Dal here from Zephyr Games, and today I'm bringing you a profile that I'm amazed I haven't done yet, and that is branded Dogmatika Despia. Now, it's more so that I kind of felt like I could tell a story with the whole profile. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the Dogmatika lore, obviously it all revolves around the Dogmatikas leading into Fallen of Albaz, and that's just kind of grown and developed with Sword Souls, Ice Jades, Despias, you name it. The lore is crazy, and I felt that obviously post-ban list with Nadir Servant coming back to free, and branded Despia kind of becoming more of a competitive relevant deck again, I thought it'd be cool to kind of put a deck together which showcases as much as possible of the lore while still being able to compete and be playable. So, with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. If you like this particular type of video that is a little bit different while also still being competitive, then please let me know and I'll look into what other decks I can do like this on top of it. With all of that out of the way, I'm going to dive head first into the profile, but the way I'm going to do this is I'm pretty much going to lay the cards out within fairness into order to kind of show off a bit of a story. So we'll start off by introducing the Dogmatikas to the fray of the story. So we start off with Ecclesia, the Virtuous. We're going to be playing two of her. One Maximus can be a little bit risky in the current game state, considering when you look at stuff like tier elements and you look at stuff like the branding matchup as well. Being able to send, or making your opponent send cards from their extra deck to the graveyard as well may not always be a good idea. So I always advise holding this card back until you find out what your opponent's playing, and then when you do, you can then decide whether you want to utilise its effect or not, or just use it as a free K monster. Now, one thing you do have to keep in mind is that the Dogmatikas themselves will lock you out of getting into the extra deck, but it's kind of something that you do as your last play. This is something after you've already activated Branded Fusion, after you've already gone for your extra deck, and then all you're already doing is you're putting these on board for additional fodder, or you're setting them up for additional negates, and then you're using the Nadir Servant to help you kind of extend your plays for more Dogmatika cards or a lock event. We've then got the one Fleur de Lis. Now, arguably, you could be playing two of this rather than the one Maximus, but I kind of wanted to keep the theme going. This is the ideal card you're going to be searching, because in a deck like this, you do not want to be going for Dogmatika Punishment, because it will lock you out of going into your extra deck technically during your opponent's turn, which is branded can do that, and during your next turn. So you have to be very, very careful. That being said, this is a 3k boss monster and will also give the ability to start boosting these every time an attack is declared. So keep that in mind, because that's how you can pretty much utilise its potential where at all possible. Now, I'm also going to put in the Nadir Servant here because it will kind of continue the story. As you can see that we've introduced the Dogmatikas. The Nadir Servant is obviously Fleur de Lis here. I'll try and be it closer to the camera as well, if it wants to focus. Come on, camera. No, that's fair. There we go. Fleur de Lis. So you've got Fleur de Lis there, and then you've got Ecclesia, and then coming down in the Meteor is Mr. Fallen of the Albaz. So Fallen of Albaz is kind of like the core contingency, or the core kind of component of all of this. Here's the one that gets tainted by Despias. Here's the one that goes into the extra deck monsters. Here's the one that basically runs away with Ecclesia. Ecclesia evolves. Fleur de Lis and Maximus evolve throughout the story as well. It leads you into the Sword Souls, the Spring Guns, you name it. So 2 Albaz is pretty much everything you need to kind of bridge the gap with what you have going for it. And then the one card, before we start getting onto like the darker side of the deck, is the one Ecclesia, the Virtuous. So this one is the Sword Soul one. But the reason we've got this in here is it's obviously the upgraded version of the original Ecclesia, or how she develops. And obviously you've got Albaz on the artwork as well. But the reason we've got one of this is it's just constantly being able to re-loop resource. If you are able to special summon this going second, you can then tag it out and go into an Albaz, and then that Albaz will allow you to pretty much fuse with a free discard fodder. Off of the back of just her in general, if she's in the graveyard and you fusion summon and send a fusion monster to the graveyard this turn, you can always add her back, which you're always constantly going to be doing with Mirror Jade, and it just gives you a free advantage to always keep looping it around. So now we're getting to the dark side of the story. So this is where it all starts to turn a little bit pear-shaped. So this is where you go into the Despias. We've obviously got the 3 Aluba. I've gone with double tragedy, 1 drama, and the 1 Adlerbyten. Along with the basic Despia version is the Albion, the Shrouded Dragon. So obviously Fawn of Albaz into this one. So the lineup is pretty similar. It's pretty standard what you want. You've got your 3 Aluba. This is your main normal summon of the deck. You don't really want to be normal summoning anything else. You normal summon this, you get to your Branded Fusion, you pretty much push for combo. Now the one big thing that this deck has is even if your opponent goes, okay, cool, well, I'm actually going to Ash your Branded Fusion, rather than you going, okay, cool, set one pass. If you've opened up something like the Dear Servant, you can actually push through and control your opponent a lot more and then lock them down so that then you can regain your resource in order to win. And I'll show you how you do that with cards that aren't technically not part of the lore of the deck, but I felt it was such a small engine and it really, really works to kind of give this a competitive edge. It was worth doing. The other monster cards that we do play are triple of the Tri-Brigade Merry Carrier and the 1 Spring Gun kit. You can pretty much cut the kit if you want to, but you can see that this is pretty much the first 3 sets of the lore. We haven't looked into Spring Guns, Tri-Brigades or anything else like that yet because I feel that these are the best engines that synergize together within the lore to tell the story. I am playing Allure of Darkness, and I think Allure of Darkness could technically fill into the story because you can kind of see how it merges the lights into the darks, which is really, really kind of cool. But the best usage of this is if you banish your Merry Carrier or your Tragedy, you're going to gain advantage off the back of it. And that's just what makes it so, so good, which is why I really like the Allure engine in this deck. You can bump it up to 3 if you want to, and it will be utilised. But like I said, to get the maximum value out of it, you want to be banishing one of these 2. If not, you're going to end up banishing one of your spare Alubas or an additional Aluba, which is not ideal, but it does kind of allow you to keep playing and keep pushing as you see fit in order to build the board you want. So that's pretty much it for like the monster elements that are part of the story and kind of see everything work. You can cut kit if you want to. It's not an absolute necessity. It would take the deck down to a 40 card deck. It's just again something that I wanted to add in for the lore factor. Moving on to the branded spells. Of course, we've got the branded fusion, so you can see Mirror Jade. I love this artwork. I'm a little bit disappointed this hasn't got an ulti, but I can see this getting one in the future. So obviously you've got Lubellion, and then you've got Mirror Jade on the artwork. Absolutely stunning. This is the card that gets everything moving as you see fit. And then another part of the story, and again, I'll try and bring this close to the camera if the focus wants to work. So you've got branded opening. Now this, I love the artwork on this because there's just so much detail, like the more and more you look into it. So you've obviously got, I believe it is Despian Quintarius up here. You've then got obviously Tri-Brigade Shurag down here, and then you've got other different components. I think there's like comedies in there, tragedies in there somewhere as well. Absolutely amazing. So this one is, of course, you discard a card and then take a Despia monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it in defense position. And then after the card resolves, you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck except fusions, which is completely fine because the full extra deck is all fusions. And then if a fusion monster or monsters you control would be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish it from the graveyard instead. So it gives you protection for all of your fusion monsters, which is really, really important. We've then got the 1 branded in red, and again, I absolutely love this artwork. Such a nice card. I like the fact that it's super because you get to see everything in detail, but I would like this to get an upgrade as well. So 1 branded in red alongside the 1 branded lost. Again, I want this to get a foil. I love the artwork on this. Obviously, you've got like Albaz dragon form down the front here, and then you've got the Despian at the back there. So, and then the 1 Despia Fear is basically like the home base of the Despias. But as you can see, all of these cards I think are incredible. Like, I love Branded Lost. The fact that your opponent can then not negate and respond to your fusion summons is really, really important. Obviously, stuff can still get ashed, but it's still kind of cool to allow it to keep going through. And then the theatre and everything else just works in tandem. Then for the other branded cards, or the last branded cards of the deck, we are playing the 1 branded Banishment and the 1 branded Sword. Now I'm hoping to hold these up to the camera and let the focus come in. So the branded Sword, you'll actually see you've got the Dark Sword Soul down here up against the Mirror Jade. So the Dark Sword Soul, I believe, is like Quijin. And it is one that's get corrupted. So it's in Blackout. You'll see Adlerbyten on the Blackout artwork, which is corrupting basically Sword Soul Sovereign. So that's how the lore continues there. And then in Banishment, you've got the Irish Sword Soul, which was originally Fleur de Lis, and then one of the Despia monsters or the Despia dragons up here, again trying to attempt to corrupt her. I really wish, like, I feel that Konami have such an open route in order to just go, here you go guys, we're going to provide you a collection of stories or laws behind. Now they've already done it on Master Duel, and I feel that they can expand to that. Like, I would easily buy a book if Konami said, "Here you go, here's a book," and then what they do is they take the artworks and they just lead it into a story, and then like explain and expand on everything that happens. You look at the, like, you've got the Dual Terminal lore, you've got the branded Despia lore, which is obviously the most recent one, and then of course you've got the what is it called? The World Legacy lore, which I absolutely love. So definitely up for something like that if Konami ever produces that in my lifetime. And then the cards that don't fit within the engine, but it's like literally it's a six cards that I feel just kind of gives you a little bit more of a competitive edge and makes it a little bit more consistent. But if you're like, no, I want this to be pure lore only, then you can take these out, and I'll explain what you can take them out for. So 2 chain, 2 patchwork, 1 poly, and then the 1 schism. Now again, I get asked this every single time I put schism into my deck. How do you resolve schism with not having a Shadowll monster in the main deck? I said that's completely fine. The way it works is Nadir Servant sends you an app clone. App clone will then search you out schism and discard a card, and then off the back of that you can activate the schism, banishing the app clone, which is your Shadowll monster, and any dark monster from your field and or grave, and that will then trigger to summon out your Winder. The best thing about that as well is when it banishes to fusion summon, you can still trigger stuff like Tragedy, I believe, and you can also still trigger Dramaturge because it is used for a fusion summon. So the best thing about that as well is you can send cards. So it does have synergy with the deck, and if this wasn't specifically a Shadowll card, like, you could see this fitting within the lore, like Dark Spirit there, Light Spirit there, it would work. So if you didn't want to play these and you wanted to take these out, you can quite easily put these into more kits if you want to. You could spice in the other level 4, I can't remember the exact name, from the Dogmatikas. You could also put in just general more Despias if you wanted to. You could put in a 3rd Tragedy. You could even put in the Sword Soul monster that came in the structure deck as well, but the cards that are very rarely played, and it wouldn't really increase the capacity of the deck. Moving on to the extra deck, we are playing 2 Mirror Jade, 1 Lubellion. Could arguably be 2, but I've gone with a 1 on this one with 2 Albion, the 1 Titaniclad. So this one is probably your best bridge between the Dogmatikas and the branded, because obviously if this gets sent, you can special summon out Ecclesia, and then Ecclesia will search you out Fleur de Lis, which you'll be able to drop during your opponent's turn. More times than not, if you send this to the graveyard through any means as well, you'll be able to search out Fleur de Lis if you've already got Ecclesia, or you can search out a Maximus or a Ecclesia for your follow-up turn as well. We've got the 1 Alba Lunatus. Now, I could still quite like having this in here for the competitive sense that when the Bystelds drop as well, which continue the lore of this, funnily enough, will fit in the deck as well. So you can even bump this deck up to a 50-card deck. All those 6 cards I showed you, you can take them out and they could easily become the Bystelds. But yeah, like, this is so great, like, contact Fusion Field, and then if you run out of Albions, you can send this, and this will still give you a fusion spell. It's rare that you ever send it, but keep in mind as well that during a turn, if you've activated Nadir Servant and you don't want to go for a Shadowll monster route, then obviously you can send this, you can send this, you can send this, and you can even send the Brigade. This will give you your Merry Carrier, so this is your hand trap of the deck, basically. And they all serve their purpose of everything you need. Going on to the Despias, we've got the 1 Proskinian, the 1 Quinterius, and the double Masquerade Dragon. So I think these are pretty much straightforward and simple on what you would expect from this particular deck. Obviously, competitive-wise, this will give you routes of winning in time. This will let you deal with any deck that isn't playing level 8 or higher fusion monsters. And then the Proskinian, you are playing a lot of lights because you're playing the Ecclesias and Dogmaticas and everything. So this is like the perfect fuse between those and the Despias. And then the final 3 cards, again, that don't really fit into the lore, but just upgrade your competitive value for this deck, is the 1 Guardian Chimera, and then the Shadowll cards of the 1 App Clone and the 1 Winder. So, like I said, you can go full combo, branded fusion, branded in red, everything you need, and then still lock your opponent under a Winder. So you can play under a Dark Ruler, you can play under a Super Poly, stuff like that. Make your opponent burn that, and then you straight away go Schism, flip into a Winder, send one of their Dark Monsters to the graveyard. They are then locked into only being able to special summon once. So keep in mind, for example, if they went to go activate Chiron, you'd go, okay, cool, change Schism. If they had no response to the Schism, the way this would then work is your Schism would resolve, summon out the Winder. Your opponent's Chiron would come to the board. Chiron would then mill the top 3 cards of the deck. and that would be their one special summon, meaning that they could then no longer go any further. So no matter what they milled, they would not being able to fusion summon, which gives you full control of the board. Plus you'll have Mirror Jade, so if you want to, you can just go, cool, Mirror Jade, banish, get rid of it, or branded in red, branded banishment, you name it, you'll still have a special summon to make after that point. It's absolutely crazy, and that's your competitive value in there. And again, I could technically, the Shadows fit the same lore. It's all about like light monsters being converted to dark monsters, or good monsters being converted to bad monsters. I think it's really, really cool. So it's kind of poetic, really, that the two of these can come together in one deck as well. So yeah, that is it. It's a little bit different from what I would normally do. I still tried to keep it as competitively viable as it possibly can be as well. I still like the Dogmatika engine. I think it's really, really cool. I think it's really, really fun. And yeah, being able to build a deck that is as close to a lore as possible without abusing too many engines. Like not just going, okay, I've got 3 branded fusion, 2 Fallen of Albaz, and then the rest of the deck is Eldritch, or the rest of the deck is like hand traps. So it does kind of give you a bit of a route around as well. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. If you did enjoy this video, please, by all means, let me know down in the comments below. And if you want to see more like this, then let me know. I'll see what I can look into, what I can do, what I can update, and try and go from there. But as absolutely always, guys, stay safe. And of course, happy dueling.